Hey there folks, welcome back to another Python Pygame video tutorial walkthrough, making the pipes game, also known as Flowy. In this video, we're going to include some animations of the water flowing. We're going to start off easy. We're just going to create the water flowing animation for the starting pipe. If you'll remember, when we created the starting pipe, let me just put this into presentation mode. When we created the starting piece, the starting pipe, or the images for the pipes for the start, we had our start right image, and there was a list of images that was given. Now the starting pipe actually had water flowing within it, so that's what we're going to make sure we include. All right, the first thing we need to do is we're going to build a class called the timer, because we want a timer to be generated to start off with the game. And then after, so let's say 30 seconds, then the water will start flowing. So in order to do that, we need to define a new class called timer. I just want to check my code quickly. That's correct. There it is there. So the timer class is fairly simple. Let's go to the bottom of our code. Underneath the piece class, we're going to create a new class. And it's just going to basically be called timer. We need to give it an init method. And we're also going to give it a duration. How long is this timer going to be? Okay, so self.duration will be equal to duration, and self.start time will be equal to 0. Self.active will be false, so the timer will be inactive when it generates. Self.current time will be self.current time is also equal to 0. Okay, so that's the initialization of our timer class. We need to give it a method. We're going to give it an activate method. Right, we're going to say self.active will be equal to true. So basically we've set the timer into an active state. And then we're going to start saying self.start time will be equal to pygame.time.get ticks. So whatever time it is at that moment. All right, the next method we need to create for the timer class, we need to create the deactivate method. All right, this will deactivate the method, so it's just straightforward. Self.active will then be set to false, and self.start time is reset back to 0. Then the last method we need to include for this class is the update. Self.timer update, right, which is the self.current time is equal to pygame.time.get ticks. Right, so that's the current time. I'm going to say if self.current time minus self.time self.start time is greater than or equal to self.duration, so which we will say 30 seconds. So if that is greater than 30 seconds, we need to then call the self.deactivate method. That is our timer class, our object. That'll handle all of our timings, or all of the timers in the game. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back up to our ending piece, or our start piece, my apologies. Let's go back up to our start piece. Okay, class, go up to end piece, start piece. So underneath our initialize method, all right. So in our our class, our start piece class, in our initialization method, in our init method, we're going to call the self.timer. We're going to call it timer, and we're going to give it a start time variable, which I believe is 30 seconds. Just give me 1 second. Yes, variable start time, start time. So in our start piece, our class start piece, in our init method, when we call the starting piece, we actually need to give it a start time. And that start time is generated where we call the start piece, which is here at our insert start pieces method. right? There, line 130 roughly, where we call the new object self piece row call offset x offset y offset. New object starting piece, because we were calling starting pieces. We're going to run into an issue here because we've got the start piece with an additional argument, but the end piece doesn't have that additional argument. It doesn't really matter though, because yeah, so what we're going to do is we're calling our starting piece. Where are we now? Insert new piece, those new pieces, the starting piece. So we've combined insert the starting piece and inserting the ending piece, right? Now, self.piece the object there. So we're going to include self.start time, okay, which is an attribute for the pipe gameplay class, which we have not created yet. So in my gameplay.class, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create an attribute right underneath self.pieces. We're going to say self.start time. Let's give it a capital, make it easier. 30,000, which means it'll be 30 seconds. Self.start time is equal to 30,000 or 30 seconds. That must be a capital. Now self.pieces. All right, so now when we are calling the insert pieces, the starting pieces, we've got this additional attribute, which is going to be a problem when we call the end piece, because we don't have that additional attribute. So we're just going to add an argument. I wonder if we say star args. I wonder if that'll be an issue. Let's run quickly. Everything runs just fine. Not a problem. Okay. So we're just going to insert star arguments for in case any other arguments, but we're not actually pulling anything from there, so that's not an issue. All right. So in my start piece, we now have a start time attribute, and our self.timer is being generated with a start time. Okay. Let's go back down to our starter piece. Okay, we've got the start time. Right. Once that timer is generated, we then actually need to say, well, if self.timer, right? So if it's, there's an object there, self.timer.activate. Actually, I don't understand why I've got it like that. It should just be self.timer.activate, as it will always, it's there, it's generated. Okay. Then the next thing we need to do, we're going to include two more attributes. We're going to say, well, if self.active is equal to true, which means that the starting piece is the starting piece, it's the active piece currently. And the last thing we need to do is we're going to go with self.direction, because we need to know which direction the starting piece is facing. Is it facing up, down, left, or right? And to get that, we're going to go with self.piece, and we're going to do splicing, I think it's called, splice. We're going to splice the list of the word. Actually, remember it's S up, S down, S left, S right. So we only want it from after the first letter. So it won't say S up, it'll just be up, down, left, or right. Okay, so now we have the direction. We have our timer attribute. We have our image. Remember, it's pulling our image index, which is currently set to 0. All right. Now we're going to go into our update method, and we're going to include redo the method, or actually take away this pass and start working on the update method. So we're going to go with if not self.active. So basically, if the starting piece timer has run down to 0, the self.active will be converted to false, and therefore this update method will just return nothing. So nothing will be done within this method. So we just return. Right. So, but if this current class, this current object is active, we're going to go timer.update. Now you'll recall that we have inside the timer piece we have the update method. So now every time we update, every time the class gets updated, the timer will be updated, and that's how the timer actually changes time. and finds out eventually if it's, the time is up or not. Okay, and then below the self.timer. Right, so this is where some of the magic starts happening. Okay. If self.timer.active, so if the timer is set to active, or is not active, my apologies, and self.image index is less than, oh my goodness, let me spell that properly. Self.image index is less than the length of the starting pieces, self.piece. If the length starting piece, right, -1, right. So if the timer is set to if the timer is inactive or set to false, then self.image index is less than the length of the list of animation images. Self.update image animation. Okay, so that's a method that we need to create. Let's go ahead and create that now quickly. Okay, so we're just going to enter, right? Define update image animation. We just need to pass it self. Let's give it a little comment. It's going to changes the image to reflect the updated animation image. Right, fairly straightforward. And all it's going to do is going to go self.image index plus equals 1. Once it's done that, self.image is then set to start, self.piece, self.image index, because we need to update our image on the class itself. And that's all that does. Why is that? Oh, there's a bracket there. That's why it's giving me an issue. Why is it giving me a start issue? What's wrong with start? What's wrong with the word start? Start is a dictionary. Start. There you go. No problem. Sorry. Just okay. So we're running the. So basically, it'll change the image from increase the image index number. All right. And the next thing we need to do is we're going to go and say, okay, cool. Self.reset timer, and that's going to be our flow time. Right. A reset timer is a method we need to create quickly. So underneath my update image animation, we're going to go define reset timer, self duration. Okay. This is resets the timer with a new time. Okay, with a new time. So basically after the first 30 seconds, right? So what happens is when the game starts, the starting piece is put onto the grid, 30 seconds runs down, right? Once 30 seconds runs down, we want to change that timer duration from 30 seconds down to however long we want the image to, the water flow animation to change to. Okay, and that's going to be, we'll do that by saying self.timer.duration will be equal to our new duration, and self.timer.activate. Okay, and we reset the timer and reactivate it, basically, that's all. So now we've got our flow time variable here. We actually need to declare what our flow time variable is going to be. And flow time, I think, was set to something very small, 50. Let's come down to our variables. Flow time, I'll put it under cell size. We're going to say flow time, and that's going to be equal to 50. So half a second. So each image will reflect for half a second only. All right, let's go back to our starting piece. Down to our start piece quickly. Where are we now? Start piece, end piece, start piece. Okay, we've reset the timer. We've reset update image animation. Okay, let's go back into our update method. Okay, so now we're doing that. We've got the flow timer and everything running. We're happy go lucky. And here we have, no, that's for music. Okay, All right, the next thing we need to do is do the next check. We're going to say, well, if self.imageIndex is equal to the length of the start self.piece, right, minus 1. So if it's equal to that length, and self.active is equal to true, right? We then want to say, well, first thing, self.active is equal to false. Okay. Right, so we've included the we've included the methods for updating images, updating the image animation, so basically switching the images around. What we need to do now is test if it's going to work, and in order to do that, we actually need to call the update method. So I'm going to go up to my Pygame class. In my gameplay class, just above the draw method, I'm going to create an update method. Define update, and in there I'm going to say for value in self.pieces dot values value dot update. Okay, and that still needs to also be called in my main game class. So in my main game class update, over there, we're just going to say self.gameplay.update. All right, let's see what happens if we run this now quickly. 30 seconds. Oh, that's going to take a long time. I'm quickly going to change that start time. We're going to make it 3 seconds. Okay. Ah, did you see that? Let's do it one more time. So we're going to run the game, and then we should see in 3 seconds our game's running. Here's our starting piece, and there the animation runs through correctly. So now we have the water flowing through the pipe, which is fantastic. Oh, I'm actually quite chuffed that that worked first time. Let's do it one more time because, you know, why not? And of course, great. Okay, let's close that. Let's quickly see where we are. Let's change the self.start time back to, well, let's leave it at 3 seconds for now because we need to actually test it. So we're gonna make it work under 5 seconds. Okay, after 5 seconds, we're going to start pieces. We'll go down to my start piece itself. Right. Right, so we've managed to get the flow working for each individual for the starting piece. After 5 seconds, the water is going to flow through there. I'm going to have to cut this video short here because the next section is we're going to be including the piece. Let me just restart that so you can see what I'm talking about. The next bit of code we're going to write is once we've added a piece to that grid, so we want the water to flow over to the next piece. And that's going to be a fair amount of coding to implement because we need to determine which direction the water is flowing from and which direction it will be flowing to. If there is a valid piece there, and then once there is a valid piece, we need to deactivate our starting piece and activate the new piece and allow that piece, the water, to then flow on that piece in the correct direction. And then also we need to put a check if there is not a valid piece there, then it should fail, or whether it should just continue along the path as it goes along. So that will be in the next video, and I hope to see you there. I hope you found this video fun, entertaining. I know it's only 20 minutes long, but it can be fairly complicated. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me in this video. If you like this video, if you want to see more content like this, if you want to support me in any way you can, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it if you want to. That'd be great. Cheers for now.